12 Russian intelligence officials have been charged by Special Investigator Robert Muller in connection with the hacking of the Democratic Party and the Hillary Clinton campaign of 2016. Now, this is a very significant moment. There have been actual charges pressed against certain individuals for the alleged hacking that took place in 2016 with regards to the Hillary Clinton campaign as she ran for president of the United States. Now, this has been a long-going accusation by her and many people like her. Now, the suspects are members of the GRU, which is the Russian military intelligence organization. So they're attacking, or they're at least charging, high-ranking officials within a significant organization inside of Russia. Now, the private account of Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, John Podesta, started in October 2016, in which several significant documents were leaked, including how Bernie Sanders was excluded from the vote and not chosen as the nominee, even though he was the one that the people who make up the Democratic support base actually did vote for. And this also led to the supposed revelations of a child molestation ring occurring at a place called Comet Ping Pong Pizza, which turned into a total mess. Now, the Deputy Attorney General Rod Ronstein announced the indictment on Friday in a press conference, accusing the 12 of compromising to interfere with the 2016 presidential election.
Today, a grand jury in the District of Columbia returned an indictment presented by the Special Counsel's Office. The indictment charges 12 Russian military officers by name for conspiring to interfere with the 2016 presidential election. 11 of the defendants are charged with conspiring to hack into computers, steal documents, and release those documents with the intent to interfere in the election. One of those defendants and a 12th Russian military officer are charged with conspiring to infiltrate computers of organizations involved in administering elections.
Now, it should be noted in this case that this was specifically stated in the press release: no Americans were involved and no votes were affected. So this does not show, even according to the investigator himself who was laying the charges, that the votes were not tampered with themselves or affected. Now, what they claim is that these Russian agents used a phishing and malware to get a hold of information. They allege that the DC leaks and the Guccifer 2.0 were actually identities created by Russian intelligence to give them plausible deniability of having hacked the servers. They're fake identities. Now, it should be interesting to note that WikiLeaks was not mentioned specifically by the indictment or in the actual statement, but they do refer to it by the name Organization 1 that he says had previously posted documents stolen from U.S. persons, entities, and the U.S. government. The indictment claims that one of the suspects searched for open source information about the DC network, the Democratic Party, and Hillary Clinton in March 2016. The following month, the indictment says the group had hacked into the DCCC network and installed malware that later enabled them to access DNC computers. They allegedly attempted to access the DNC computers, the compressed files, and then moved them using a software which the indictment calls X-Tunnel, and then tried to hide their tracks by deleting access logs. Now, left out from the indictment is how the federal investigators actually got this information, considering that the FBI was never given any access to the DNC servers, despite the fact that they did request it. Now, how did they determine where it came from, who got in, if they never even saw the servers themselves? And I think that's a very important question to ask. How did they even get this evidence that these Russian officials were involved in this hack? Now, I think that another point to carry out that I believe it was Veterans for Truth, an independent investigative body, did look into the DNC hack, and they determined that the information was transferred out of the servers too quickly to have been done over the internet or an internet connection. In fact, it would have had to have been done by a flash drive or some other kind of physical media storage that had been plugged directly into the servers themselves. In other words, this would have to have been an inside job. Someone inside the Democratic Party would have had to leak that information out in order for it to have been transferred at that speed. So there's two very serious questions that do need to be looked at here when trying to analyze whether or not these indictments are legitimate. And I think that these are two legitimate questions that do need to be asked of this situation. And two questions I'm sure that will probably be left unanswered. Now, we know Russia's not going to turn over their intelligence officials to U.S. authorities. However, the U.S. does have to take the steps necessary to charge the individuals they claim are involved. However, the fact that these two questions remain unanswered and, frankly, uninvestigated by the U.S. government shows not a bias against Donald Trump, but a bias against the capitalist interests who supported Donald Trump. Now, this is not against Trump himself, but one section of the capitalist class going after another section of the capitalist class. Trump personally, I would have said was not the personal target, but given the way that he has acted in the last couple of months, or since he took office, and the horribly destabilizing way that he has acted towards America's allies and other countries around the world, that perhaps maybe he is being targeted deliberately. Now, I'm not opposed to Donald Trump being removed as president. He is wholly incompetent and should not be in the position that he's in. But these are two very important questions when it comes to whether or not Russia was involved in some kind of hacking conspiracy. And given these two unanswered, very important questions, I see little reason to believe that Russia was involved in any kind of hack whatsoever.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.